When installing beams, make sure all holes, if pre-drilled, line up prior to assembling beam jambs. When standing the beam, the holes should be oriented towards the outside of the building and opposite of the header purlin bracket. Begin by assembling gable-in beam jambs. Once assembled, beams should be lifted into place and secured to upper bracket and base plate with bolts. After securing beams, attach header purlin to universal brackets with pins. Place the C-channel to the inside of the beam jamb with the mounting plate oriented to the outside of the door opening. Use a long 7/16 drill bit to bore a hole all the way through the beam. Make sure that holes are straight and aligned on both sides of the beam. Insert carriage bolt through the beam and C-channel with thread end positioned to the inside of the structure. Place a washer on the bolt and tighten the nut. Repeat for the remaining holes. Using a cutoff wheel, cut off the excess thread to be flush with the end of the nut. This will allow the guide to sit squarely on the C-channel. Before lifting guides, use a file to smooth the inside flare at the top of the track. This will prevent binding while the door is being raised or lowered. Lift the guide and place it on top of the C-channel. Make sure the outside of the guide is flush with the outside of the C-channel. Also make sure the bottom of the guide is resting on the floor. Secure the guide by placing a 3/8 inch Tek screw in every third hole. The door brackets are attached to the mounting plates on either side of the door and clearly marked for the right and left side. Secure the door brackets to the mounting plate with 3 3/8 inch bolts, locking washer, and nuts. At this point in time, you will need to determine the side of the door that gets the chain hoist. The bracket on this side will have a 1 1/8 inch gap between the outside of the guide and the inside edge of the door bracket. The bracket on the opposite side is mounted flush with the guide. Make sure the brackets are securely fastened to the mounting plates. Once the brackets have been mounted, check all measurements of the door opening as well as plumbness and levels of beams, guides, and brackets. This will ensure efficient and effective door installation and operation. Check the orientation of the door to determine which side will have a chain hoist and which side will have the tensioner assembly. You will now need to locate and assemble the tensioner assembly. Using the tensioner's assembly's spring roll pin located in knurled wheel, rotate upward in the direction that clears the axle. Then slide the tensioner assembly over the axle with the arrow pointing toward the wall and release the pin. Lightly secure tensioner to axle with square red-headed bolt. On the side of the door that gets the chain hoist, fasten the 63-tooth cast ring to the door drum. Use 3 3/8-inch hex bolts and lock washers. Now attach the cast axle support bracket to the side of the chain hoist. Use 3/8-inch bolts and lock washers. Install 2 3/8-inch square red-headed screws in the threaded holes in the cast axle support bracket. These will be tightened against the axle later. Now feed the hand chain over the chain pocket wheel and through hoist. Connect the ends of the hand chain, being careful not to twist the chain. The hand chain may also be lengthened or shortened as needed. Slide the chain hoist onto the cast ring gear side of the door axle. The spur gear on the hoist will engage with the internal teeth of the cast ring gear on the end of the drum. On the same side of the door opening as the chain hoist, install the hand chain keeper on the outside of the jamb. Prior to lifting door assembly, place padding on the forks to prevent damaging the door. Make sure the door is oriented in the right directions. Pick up and place gently on the forks. Secure the door to the forks. Do not cut packaging or tape on the ends of the door. It is there to prevent uncoiling and will be removed prior to unrolling the door. Lift the door and position it on the brackets with the tensioner and chain hoist assembly resting safely on top of the bracket flange. The door should be positioned as close as possible to the header and still be able to rotate and clear the bottom bar. Each end of the door should be equal distance from the header and the curtain must be centered in the opening. Attach the tensioner assembly and the chain hoist assembly to the door brackets using 3/8-inch hex bolts and lock washers. Before tightening the bolts completely, make sure the brackets are square and the wind locks line up with the edge of the guides. Make adjustments if necessary. Now, using a large crescent wrench, bend out the flare at the top of the guide. This will help feed the wind locks into the top of the guide. While firmly holding the door at the bottom bar, cut the tape and plastic wrap that holds the door in a coil. Direct the bottom bar down into the guides, stopping just past the headstop area. Slide the headstop into the guide. Secure each headstop into the guide with 3/8 hex bolt and lock washer. Lower the bottom bar and install slide lock and step plate. Transfer the carriage bolts and serrated flange hex nuts that are removed from both ends of the bottom bar to the 2 holes at the center of the bottom bar and angle. At tensioner end, place pipe wrench or breaker bar around the end of the axle so that pulling down on the handle will rotate the axle to increase spring tension. Loosen all 3/8 square red-headed screws in tensioner and axle support at both ends of door. The axle is now under tension, so be sure to keep a firm grip. Increase spring tension, pull down on pipe wrench or breaker bar. Then tighten all square-headed red screws in tensioner and axle support at both ends of door. Then remove pipe wrench or breaker bar and operate door. Secure the door by placing the hand chain in the hand chain keeper. Assemble and install door sweeps on inside door jamb to complete door installation. Use 3/8 inch Tech screws to attach door sweeps.